July 8, 2014, a date that will forever haunt Brazilian football. On that night, in the heart of Belo Horizonte, history was not just written, it was burned into the soul of a nation. A stadium full of hope, millions in front of screens, and a team carrying the dreams of a football-crazy country. But what was planned as a celebration turned into a national tragedy, because on that night, Germany didn't just beat Brazil, they tore them apart, humiliated them, broke them. This is the story of how Germany destroyed the dream of an entire nation in just 90 minutes.
Come here for a samba, and they've been totally rocked back on their heels.
But to understand the humiliation, you must first understand why Germany played with such aggression. Why did they play this game as if their lives depended on it? Why did every pass, every tackle, every goal have the weight of history? Because before the glory of 2014, there was pain. Germany, although a footballing powerhouse, was in a crisis in the early 2000s. The team had become predictable, slow, outdated. The golden days of the 90s were fading fast, and Germany was falling behind modern football. At Euro 2000, they were embarrassingly knocked out in the group stage, last in a group with England, Portugal and Romania. Not a single game won. The 2002 World Cup might have offered a glimmer of hope. They reached the final, but even this campaign was basically carried by a brilliant Oliver Kahn and a favourable draw. In the final, they were comfortably defeated 2-0 by Brazil. Then came Euro 2004, another group stage exit. No wins, no identity, just more disappointment. For a country with such a rich footballing history, this was unacceptable. In these years of failure, Germany began to rethink everything. They looked inward. The DFB started a nationwide football reform. The youth system was revamped, collaborations with clubs were established, and a new generation of technically strong, tactically smart players was fostered. It was no longer just about efficiency, it was about development. By 2006, the first results of this transformation began to show. As hosts of the World Cup, Germany played courageous offensive football and reached the semi-finals. They didn't win the title, but they won back respect. The public began to believe again. In 2010, they pushed even further. With players like Özil, Müller and Kroos, Germany once again reached the semi-finals, this time with spectacular high-scoring victories against England and Argentina. But again, they failed, losing 1-0 to Spain in a game that revealed their inexperience.
3 semi-final defeats in 4 major tournaments. They weren't just playing to win in 2014, they were playing to finally finish what they had started. They carried the weight of 12 years of rebuilding, missed opportunities and national expectations on their shoulders. This was not just a talented team, it was a team bent on redemption. And when they arrived in Brazil, they weren't just there to participate. They came with a mission to win and to destroy everything that stood in their way. And this time, it wasn't just about talent or belief. It was about precision, planning and execution. After over a decade of failures and frustration, the team that went into the 2014 World Cup was no longer in transition. It was complete, organized, mentally prepared, and tactically sharp. Germany was more than just a talented squad. They had become a machine. Joachim Löw, who took over after the 2006 World Cup, had quietly but consistently rebuilt the national team. He forged a team that combined experienced leaders with fearless young talents, players who could control games through discipline and calculated risks. Germany was no longer dependent on individual brilliance. They thrived on collective intelligence. The players moved with purpose, trusted the system, and knew that every moment on the pitch played a role in the big picture. Their preparation was meticulous. Months before the start of the tournament, the DFB had set up its own training camp on Brazilian soil, Campo Bahia. While other nations travelled long distances between games, Germany stayed in one place, completely acclimatizing to the climate and focusing on the task. It wasn't just about recovery, it was about control. Every decision, from logistics to training plans, was part of a larger strategy. There was no room for error. After the failures of 2006, 2008 and 2010, the team knew what it felt like to fail just short of the goal. This time, it wasn't going to happen again. The goal was clear: to win the World Cup and dominate every opponent who stood in their way.
And when the tournament began, it quickly became clear that Germany wasn't there just to participate. They had come to conquer. Germany went into the 2014 World Cup as one of the favourites, but unlike in previous tournaments, the team this time played as if they knew it was their moment. From the very first game, they sent a message to the world. They were here to dominate. Their group stage began with a devastating 4-0 victory against Portugal, a performance that demonstrated their tactical discipline and offensive efficiency. Thomas Müller scored a hat-trick, while the team controlled the game with an ease that left Portugal powerless. It was the perfect opening. Their second game against Ghana was a test of resilience. Ghana fought hard, exploited gaps in the German defense, and even took the lead at one point. But Germany didn't panic. Miroslav Klose, the experienced striker chasing World Cup history, came off the bench and scored the equaliser, tying Ronaldo's all-time World Cup goal record. It wasn't their best performance, but they showed they could respond under pressure. Against the United States in the final group game, Germany only needed a draw to advance, but settling for a draw was never in their plan. They controlled possession, dictated the tempo, and secured a 1-0 victory thanks to a goal from Müller. With 7 points, they topped their group and advanced to the round of 16, where the real test awaited them. The round of 16 against Algeria revealed a brief moment of vulnerability. Algeria's pace and relentless pressing threw Germany off their game and forced them into extra time after a goalless 90 minutes. But again, experience and composure made the difference. Schürrle and Özil scored in extra time, securing a 2-1 victory in a game that served as a warning. Germany could not afford to be complacent. In the quarter-final, there was no more room for hesitation. Against France, one of the strongest teams in the tournament, Germany showed their ability to control a high-pressure game. A precise header from Mats Hummels early on gave them the lead, and from that moment on, they managed the game with absolute control. France found no way through, and when the final whistle blew, Germany had secured an effective 1-0 victory. It wasn't spectacular, but it was effective. After 4 games, they were in the semi-finals again, but this time there was no fear of failure, no room for doubt. Germany had come too far to let history repeat itself, and now they were facing Brazil. What happened next shocked the world. The semi-final, what happened on July 8th, 2014, was not just a semi-final. It was such a complete and unexpected collapse that it redefined the meaning of defeat in football. For Brazil, this game was meant to be a statement, a restoration of pride after 12 years without a World Cup title. For Germany, it was just the next step in a long, focused mission. But what unfolded in Belo Horizonte was a shockwave that rattled the entire world. The first 10 minutes gave no hint of what was about to happen. Brazil pressed forward, showing energy and determination, but the warning signs were already there. Germany didn't panic, they waited. Then in the 11th minute, they struck. Thomas Müller, unmarked from a corner, calmly slotted Kroos's cross into the net. It was clinical and it was silent. No cheers, just a cold, efficient opening. Brazil tried to respond, but it didn't work. Their attacks were unstructured. The midfield looked disjointed. In the 23rd minute, Kroos and Müller combined through the Brazilian defense and set up Miroslav Klose. His first shot was saved, but he converted the rebound. It was his 16th World Cup goal, a new record, and it opened the floodgates. What followed was chaos, a footballing collapse that no one, not even the Germans, could have foreseen. In the 24th minute, Kroos scored with a precise shot after a deflected cross from Lahm. Seconds later, Brazil lost the ball. Right after the kickoff, Kroos won it back again, played a quick 1-2 with Khedira and scored his second goal in less than 70 seconds. It was 4-0 and the game was just 26 minutes old. Khedira added the 5th goal in the 29th minute after a quick 1-2 with Özil. The stadium was silent. Cameras showed crying fans, frozen in shock. Security forces were sent to the stands to contain the growing unrest. On the pitch, Brazil wasn't just losing, They were falling apart. The second half brought little relief. Schürrle scored the 6th and 7th goals. Even some Brazilian fans applauded the German team, but most left the stadium in silence. The final score was 7-1. It was Brazil's worst defeat since 1920 and the highest loss in a World Cup semi-final of all time. When the final whistle blew, the Brazilian players collapsed. Some cried, others silently left the pitch. Germany didn't celebrate wildly. They knew what they had just done. They hadn't just won, they had dismantled the hosts in their own country. This was no longer a football match, it was history. After this historic demolition in Belo Horizonte, Germany didn't lose their composure. There were no exaggerated celebrations, no loss of discipline. They knew the job wasn't finished. One last game separated them from their ultimate goal, the World Cup. In the final at the Maracanã, Germany faced Lionel Messi's Argentina, a team that had grown stronger with every round. It was an exciting, physical game that remained goalless after 90 minutes. But in the 113th minute, Mario Götze controlled André Schürrle's cross with his chest and finished with a volley into the net. It was the perfect ending. Germany had conquered Brazil and then the world. They didn't just win the tournament, they redefined it with planning, discipline, and ruthless execution. But when it was all over, when the trophy was lifted, the confetti had fallen, and Germany was officially the world champion, most people weren't talking about the final. They were still talking about that night in Belo Horizonte. The 7-1, the silence in the stadium, the tears, the disbelief, the collapse of a footballing giant in front of its own fans. It was more than just a result. It was a moment that shook the sport, a game that will be remembered for generations. But here's the question. Was that the biggest humiliation in World Cup history?